Hello and welcome back to Matthew's Tottenham Blog and to another Tottenham transfer roundup. It's been a very busy day in the world of Jed Spence. We've had updates from a number of reporters, including Alistair Gold, about the future of the 21-year-old right wing back. We're going to go through those reports, see what's real, see what's not, and we're also going to dive deep into Jed Spence, into the numbers, into how he played at Nottingham Forest last season, and looking at what he can bring to Tottenham if he is going to be our right wing back for the coming season. We have a few other updates, including one on Alan St. Maximin, and quotes from Steven Bergwijn regarding what seems to be at the moment an imminent departure. Before we do get into all of that, if you are new to the channel, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click the notification bell so you get notified every time we upload or go live. Look, let's dive into it straight away with the update from Alistair Gold. First of all, welcome everyone to the live chat. Over 100 people already. We got Sue, Graham, Moninder, Ryan, absolute legend, Kishan, Mark, Niall, Daniel, Sean, Jack, William, Jay, all of you, Zoe, channel member, good to see you. Welcome everyone to the live chat. Now, Alistair Gold earlier today said that Tottenham are expected to really push for Jed Spence, or push to sign Jed Spence once he is back from international duty, and that seems to be something that's delaying a couple of our deals at the moment. We won't mention the other name, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Christopher and Tony, great to see you, channel members, absolute heroes. So the international duty situation is Jed Spence is currently on duty with the England under-21s. They have 4 European Championship qualifiers to play this month. The first of which is down. Let's get the result there quickly if this will load, but it won't load quickly, so we won't. They've got 3 left, the last of which is on the 13th of June. So after that, Spence will be, I assume, returning to wherever he resides in Middlesbrough, where, of course, I think a lot of people forget that Jed Spence is a Middlesbrough player that was on loan at Nottingham Forest last season. So it's Middlesbrough that we're negotiating with, and one of our biggest competitors within those negotiations is Nottingham Forest, who want to bring Jed Spence with them to the Premier League. Now, Ali Gold said it's not just Spurs and it's not just Forest. He said that Tottenham, Borussia Dortmund, Roma, Newcastle, Brentford and Forest are all willing to pay the fee Middlesbrough want, and Tottenham are among the front runners. Now it's pretty much just a case of Spence making his decision. So this could be purely down to the player. Now, he said after the promotion from the playoff that hopefully he can be playing with Nottingham Forest next season. I think if Tottenham come in with a genuine offer, if Antonio Conte calls him and says, you're the right back that I want, I think that could change Spence's decision. And I said it when Spence said that initially, that it could just be the emotion talking. It could be the joy of getting that promotion over the line after what was a painstaking season for Spence in particular and Nottingham Forest. So hopefully his heart isn't set on Nottingham Forest. And as we look at in a few reports down the line, that it seems as though maybe it's not. Scott Wilson of the Northern Echo, who's been deemed a tier 1 source by multiple Spurs aggregators on Twitter, including Tottenham Tiers, he has said that Tottenham's interest in Spence is at an advanced stage with an expected fee above £50 million. He also says that Tottenham are growing in confidence of completing a deal. And with regards to the price of this one, it seems to be between 15 and 18 million pounds, which for Conte's number 1 choice at right wing back, if that is true, it is absolutely incredible. And we mentioned it earlier in the summer. It was a viewer that actually commented, that pointed it out to me when we were talking about the links with John McGinn, that Conte isn't really a huge spender. He of course he chooses the players that he wants, and it's either those players are no one, those players are he walks, but those players aren't always 50, 60, 70 million pound players. And we're proving this. Perisic in on a free, and Jed Spence potentially with a maximum, from what we're hearing, of 18 million pounds. Really clever business. And Scott Wilson says that Antonio Conte identified Jed Spence as one of his key summer targets and told the club to sign him at all costs. So according to Wilson, Conte is the driving force behind this deal at the moment, which is it's all we want to hear. I think I've said many times on this channel that personally I'm not sold on this man being the first choice right back for Spurs next season. There's not many players that step up from the Championship and immediately can be top level in the Premier League. And I think that pressure and the quality that is demanded from that is tenfold when you're stepping into an Antonio Conte team as a wingback. And I'm still unsure if he's going to be the man to do that. But if Conte wants him, if he's a player that Conte has identified for this position, bring him in 100%, no matter what. Get that deal done. Ryan Taylor of Daily Express has said that Tottenham are set to push ahead with a move for Jed Spence in a £15 million deal, so quoting the same price there. He says that Nottingham Forest are already resigned to Tottenham beating them to a deal for Djed Spence. So Forest could have maybe accepted already that Tottenham are just the more desirable option. Maybe Spence has told them that he is eyeing up that deal to Spurs. Another report from Jack Talbot. I'm not sure of the reliability there, and it's certainly very different to the rest of the reports. He says that Tottenham have already put in an offer for Spence. He's saying it's £20 million or €20 million, which is about £17.17 million. I don't know if it's gone that far just yet, but the fact that those reports are out there, I think, is a good sign that maybe we're getting close to that point. But absolutely reliable reports there from Ali Gold, from Scott Wilson, and you could argue from Ryan Taylor that Tottenham are pushing for this one. Tottenham wanted to get done, and it is potentially looking very, very likely that, a few people on Twitter, I think one of them was Paul O'Keefe, said that Spence would be a Tottenham player barring a disaster, and it looks like, unlike last summer when we were going to get Pochettino and Conte barring a disaster, it looks like that disaster is going to be avoided this summer, and Djed Spence could potentially end up in a Tottenham jersey. But now, what would he offer to Spurs? What type of football does he play? Is he an attacking or defending fullback? Is he going to fit into that wing back position? What are his numbers? We're going to dive into all of that. Who scored? Where you see those player profiles that I have beside me, those traits down at the bottom of that, those come from Who Scored. They judge everything on a statistical front, so they don't combine performance or importance of different events within this. So we're going to look at that a little bit later, but purely on a statistical front, Who Scored did an article analysing Djed Spence's season, and they said that the 21-year-old ended the campaign with a Who Scored rating of 7.05 for Forest. That's enough to make the championship team of the season, as he regularly burst forward to help stretch opponents. This became all the more potent a weapon in Forest's arsenal once Steve Cooper took charge in September. Cooper implemented a three-man defence and the use of wing-backs, which played to Spence's strengths. So, the fact that he has experience in that system, and it's deemed as something that allowed him to show the very best of his game, it's a tick in the pro column, no shadow of a doubt. Who Scored also said the licence to bomb upfield wasn't wasted on Spence, who completed more dribbles with 76 than any other defender in the championship this season. That's enough to rank joint 5th in the division. So more dribbles than any other player, and only 4 players in the championship had more dribbles than him throughout the entire season. In addition, when he did get forward, Spence had a solid end product that saw him finish the campaign with 45 key passes from open play, ranking him among the top 25 players in the league. Granted, the youngster ended the season with just 4 assists to his name, but that is due to his teammates' failure in front of goal rather than the product from Djed Spence. 45 key passes from right wing back, I think, is exceptional. And look, again, in a Conte system, those attributes are really important, but if he can continue to do that on a Premier League level, personally, I am still torn. Defensively, quite solid as well. 136 tackles and interceptions combined, ranked 18th in the championship this season, with Spence boasting the defensive know-how to deny opponents from attacking his side's goal. Combining this with his attacking quality, that allows the player to successfully turn defence into attack when he does win the ball. So that kind of counter-attacking ability, that being able to transition that game in an instant is something that Spence clearly has ability to do, because he's solid defensively and going forward. So looking into this and doing this research, I've certainly grown more fond of Spence and perhaps more optimistic about this deal being done. But again, I still do hold those reservations. Scouted Football is another one I looked into. They identified his strengths as straight line speed, dribbling ability and receiving the ball. They say that Spence's nimble footwork and blistering pace are assets that make him a dynamic threat with the ball, as well as enabling him to cover against danger well down the opposite end. His weaknesses, ones that you'd probably expect to have with a young player: awareness on and off the ball, defensive positioning and passing, which is kind of an odd one. They say that Spence's lack of awareness in and out of possession is a big concern, as it leads to sloppy decision making offensively and lapses in defensive concentration and positioning, which again, from a young player, you'd expect. He's going to have naivety in the way that he plays. His decision making isn't going to be it's not going to be the best. That's potentially where we know that Ivan Perisic is going to be a mentor for Ryan Sessegnon. Maybe Perisic can be that for Spence as well. He has played on the right hand side, but also that the skills are pretty much transferable from left back to right back. You just flip it. So hopefully Perisic can be a very good player for Spence. And look, not even just Perisic. I mean, from the attacking side of things, maybe Dejan Kulusevski, as someone who's been really good with providing opportunities for his teammates in the league towards the latter end of last season. Maybe Matt Doherty, who, well, he hasn't really done it at Spurs. There's no doubt he has that footballing knowledge and he has the know-how. It's just about really turning that into actual action, which has been his problem for Spurs. Tony says, I just hope he has the right attitude, Matt. And that was questioned with the post he put up to Neil Warnock after they were promoted. So for anyone who doesn't know the background to this, Neil Warnock was manager of Middlesbrough at the start of the season, and he loaned Djed Spence out. They had a brilliant option in Isaiah Jones behind him, so they weren't exactly lacking in the right wing back department. But they loaned Djed Spence out, and Neil Warnock said publicly that he needs to sort himself out. Spence obviously took a disliking to that. After the promotion was secured in the playoffs the other week, he put up a post welcoming Steve Warnock to Twitter, very much tongue-in-cheek, with a cigar in his mouth and the "we're going up" flag behind him. Which, look, I wouldn't call that attitude. I kind of like that in a player. It's that proving the doubters wrong, and he clearly had that faith and trust in himself that he didn't need to prove, or he didn't need to sort himself out. Basically, he knew that talent was there. It's had a little bit of a dig at someone who didn't believe in him, which again I quite like. King Hoddle says Conte will make Spence fitter, more dynamic, and more tactically astute. Allied to his natural talent, we could have a player. It's a brilliant point, and hopefully that is what will happen. I think with every player we get in, it's going to be a case of hoping Conte can get the best out of them. And for the most part, if Conte is picking those players, I've no doubt that he will be able to do that. But within all of these deals, there's bound to be a player that won't really be able to give his very best under Antonio Conte. If we're going to be making 5 or 6 first team signings, not every one of them is going to work out as much as we'd hope that it would, and as much as we can look at each individual transfer and see why it could work out. Something is going to go wrong. Something is going to go amiss. It could be Djed Spence. It might not be Djed Spence. Looking a bit more at that article from Scouted Football, we'll take a bit of a dive into it. They say that Middlesbrough loanee Djed Spence has enjoyed a fruitful season under Steve Cooper at Nottingham Forest. A mainstay in the manager's lineup, the 21-year-old has offered up his best return offensively as the promotion-pushing side's right wing-back. With such a season rumoured to be garnering interest from some of the very top clubs up the footballing ladder, is the now England under-21 international good enough to make the cut? And that's my question, I suppose. Is now the time for him? Is he ready to make that step up? They say that Spence's wing-back role can be sort of a withdrawn one, with movements that mirror a lot of what the top possession-oriented sides do. It isn't all about movement in behind, but it is also about dropping short enough to multiply the angles around the ball holder and stretch the space between the lines. And I think that fits quite well into what Tottenham are trying to do. And I remember very well the winner against Manchester City, when we had the ball kind of passed it along the back line, and we ended up with a triangle on the right hand side with, was it Emerson, Romero and Bentancur, whoever was playing right wing back, Romero and Bentancur. And that isn't really what you'd expect from our right wing backs. You'd expect them to be the ones making that width and maybe making that run in beyond the lines as Kulusevski did. But that little triangle came into play. They managed to get the ball into Bentancur, brilliant timed run from Kulusevski, and the ball was then whipped over the top, which allowed Kulusevski to provide the assist. Djed Spence, I've noticed him referred to online as an inverted sort of wing-back, and that fits well into what Tottenham are doing, but he also has that ability to play out wide, as we saw with those crossing numbers, or those key pass numbers. So, look, I'm not saying that I doubted Conte and Paratici had identified the right player, but I'm starting to see more and more why this is the player they've gone for. It's not just a case of he's young, he could be much better. There's a lot of tactical side to this. There's a lot to it, and it's exciting to kind of see it all being pieced together, I suppose. They said that Spence has followed these instructions well, but could sometimes do more to create better separations between him and his marker. For instance, his timing his drop-ins better and applying more double movements that could help him receive more freely in congested build-up situations. So again, something you'd expect of a young player. I wouldn't call it naivety, but you often see players like Olivier Giroud, I think, is a player who's absolutely brilliant at it. And Edinson Cavani, I remember a goal in particular he scored against Fulham for Manchester United, where he's in the box, the ball is out wide, and some players might just make that one run to the front post or peel off the back post. But it's those double movements. You step one way, you calm the defender, and all of a sudden you go the other way. That applies all over the pitch. It's not just in the box to get a free header that you need to do that. And it's something that maybe, as they're saying here, Djed Spence could add to his game, which would allow him an extra second or two on the ball, or when he's getting possession that he's not immediately under pressure, he can have those couple of seconds to pick out a pass or to decide what he wants to do. But again, Conte is the perfect man to help him with that. However, when he does receive the ball, he's always looking to open up his body to whatever's ahead. What he does with the ball then can be a little stunted, though, as he doesn't have the finest array of passes in his locker. There's an example there where they say that he's half impacted by a lack of scanning before receiving. Spence doesn't react or play to runs ahead of him quickly enough. With the extra time needed to get his head up and the skewed vision he has as a result, he can often miss the need to play the simple pass inside or backwards. And even when it comes to the simpler plays, Spence is more than a little guilty of overweighting basic layoffs. So a few different aspects of his passing there that do need to be worked on. This lack of foresight can also be seen in some of his first touches, where his repeated close-to-body control occasionally misses opportunities to be more direct in attacking space first time. So the way I always heard that described is his touches are too good. You know, he's getting the ball and he's stopping it dead. He's getting caught underneath his feet instead of, when it's coming into him, laying it off to which way he wants to go. And maybe that is a lack of being able to be more fluid in that decision making, or being more fluid in receiving the ball and then doing what he wants to do with it, I suppose. It's maybe two separate actions, getting the ball and then seeing what he wants to do, rather than, kind of getting it out of him first touch, I suppose. That being said, this type of receiving benefits his biggest asset, which is dribbling. It keeps the space inside and down the line pinned, with him gradually but carefully approaching his opponent goalwards. Spence is great at keeping his body over the ball and his touch is light, enabling him to spring in either direction. Over greater distances, he has trouble maintaining consistency in weighting his touches correctly, despite being able to comfortably use both feet, which that is an interesting point for me, because we know Perisic on the other side is very two-footed. That's one of his biggest attributes. Spence on the other side can comfortably use both feet. As Tony says there, don't forget to like and subscribe, please, if you haven't already. It will be a big help, and thank you, Tony, for reminding me. But they go on to say that Spence's acceleration is undeniable. With plenty of jinxes thrown into the mix, a quick two-touch shift to the outside so often sees him soar past his opponent to get to the byline. So maybe that lack of movement that he has off the ball, he's nailed that on the ball. With a little touch one way and then you kind of jolt in the other way to wrong-foot a defender and get down the line, and then that acceleration, that straight-line speed gets him away from them with ease. The speed he has on offer is almost underutilised at times with and without the ball. He sometimes misses chances to cut in through a gap on the run, and off the ball he could be a far more potent threat if he was willing to commit to run making. As things are now, though, he isn't yet a prolific box threat. I feel like I keep on saying it, but who's the man to help with that? Who's the man who can improve that and make it the best part of his game? It's Antonio Conte. What still holds him back after beating his man, however, is the lack of awareness that remains. Spence is not one to constantly lift his head mid-dribble to see what's on, so it's usually hard to get a pass or cross out of him early, or when there's a slight opening during his ball runs. Even once he's reached the byline, for example, his crosses, be it low or swung in high, are basically instinctual, since he rarely even looks up. So, look, I think that at Spurs isn't the biggest concern, because we commit so many numbers into the box, and when those players are Kane, Son, maybe Perisic at the back post, maybe Bentancur, or what could end up being an Eriksen or a Gareth Bale in at the edge of the box, it's not the worst thing in the world if he just sticks that ball into the box and kind of hopes for the best, although you would rather that isn't the case. I think pullbacks and dinks to the back post have been quite beneficial for Tottenham in the last season or so. So maybe it is a concern. I personally don't think it's the biggest one, but as we're seeing here, there is still a lot that needs to be done to improve Spence's game. That in itself brings inconsistency to the quality of his final ball. Sometimes his crosses are wildly overhit, sometimes they're underhit, sometimes they're right on the money, sometimes they fall too far beyond the intended target. This is not to say the technique itself is by any means bad. It's just that the target hitting becomes so without awareness. So even when he does get that cross right, it wasn't exactly intentional, or there's a bit of luck to it. It's something which unsurprisingly plagues what he does with the ball on the cut-in, although he sometimes boasts great patience when slowly shifting the ball inwards, looking for a good angle to open up. It's mostly the case that he has to hurdle challenges without being able to angle his body over the line. Look, I see concerns in the live chat straight away. People comparing him to Aurier. Look, I haven't watched enough of him to be able to answer that question, but considering we were happy to release Aurier last season and now we're trying to get this guy done, I feel like that there is enough to say that he is probably better. William says he sounds like a British Traore, which, look, I absolutely get the comparison. Traore is a player that I think we're still somewhat interested in, so maybe that's what Conte wants. Maybe Conte is happy to have a player who has the physical side of the game and has the side, I suppose, that he can't teach, and then be able to teach and coach the other side of it into the game, which could make sense. Let's see how it goes. Now look, opposite to what we read last time, this report says that the defensive side of Spence's game is a bit alarming and currently sheds a bit more cause for concern, mostly due to lapses in concentration. He's a very passive figure during counter presses, as he's rarely directly onto an opponent nearby, instead leaving himself planted and ball facing without enough awareness for the opponents exploiting the vacant space behind him. That's very concerning. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is obviously a miles better player than Spence, but the criticism he gets a lot is that he isn't able to defend. And my view on that is that it's never a question, or it's usually not a question of Trent's one-on-one defensive abilities. You know, I would back him against some players in a one-on-one face-off, but the goal in that Champions League final that Vinicius Jr. scored, the reason that happened is because Trent never looked over his shoulder. You know, he never knew where Vinicius Jr. was. He was watching the ball, he was watching Valverde carry it down the line, but he never once scanned to see where the opponent was. Maybe Spence is a similar has similar type of troubles, I suppose. William says, "Don't ever get a job in sales." I'm not trying to sell this transfer. I'm trying to get the facts across. You know, if I wanted to sell this transfer, I'd just read out all the good paragraphs within this. But like I've said myself, I have concerns about this transfer. And I think these are just being backed up, I suppose, by this. His tendency to ball watch is also prevalent when turnovers occur on the opposite side, as he's then often a few seconds slow of reacting appropriately by getting back goal side of the attackers who target the exposed space down his channel. Ian, great to see you. Thankfully for him, his blistering recovery pace and inconsistent opposition targeting of it have seen him get away with this. Kind of like Kyle Walker. His speed over the first few yards is also beneficial to his man-marking game, as he has a great knack for reading simple passes into feet and getting across to intervene. So something positive on the defensive side there. They're compared with Isaiah Jones, who was a player that was used at Middlesbrough to allow Spence to go. And compared to the league average, Spence has been dribbled past a lot more. I'm trying to read this. He has more pressures. His passing doesn't come anywhere near. But his successful dribbles is sky high. It's 1.6 compared to a league average of about 0.8. So look, I think it's kind of backing up. He does have, his strengths are strong, but his weaknesses are weak. If that makes sense. When approaching opponents who've gotten onto the ball, though, his technical skills can sometimes be lacking. Whilst he curves his presses out to direct play well enough, how he handles his position relative to the ball carrier when head-on is another matter. So I suppose what that is kind of saying is he has the ability to force a player either way. So no, if you're faced against Dejan Kulusevski, for example, you'll kind of press a bit to his left-hand side to force him down onto his right foot. Spence seems to have that ability, but one-on-one, if a player's trying to take him on, maybe he doesn't. Sometimes due to his own lingering starting positions, and other times due to indecision when pinned by another, Spence always affords his opponents so much time on the ball. This makes it incredibly easy to feed runners off his blindside. In the Premier League, that won't cut it. Straight up, that will not cut it in the Premier League. In more direct, wide 1v1s, it's also a sticking point, as it allows the ball holder to dictate the shift in direction without having their angles too shut off, which is then furthered by Spence's lacking reaction time. It's getting really concerning reading through this defensive side of things, I'm not going to lie. Although Spence does often enough keep a low stance when engaging ball holders and appears very light in his feet, he's always one step off the pace of an opponent's next starting move, with or without the ball. As a result, this can lead to crosses flying in past him and easy separations when marking players at set pieces or when tracking the runs of players at open play crosses. From a physical standpoint, the wingback is surprisingly good in the air. This comes more down to his spring, though, since his physical tussles are usually one-sided, both offensive and defensively. So they forecast his future. They said that in his current mould, I believe there are reasons to be fairly cynical about Spence's current level, to the point where a move up to the Premier League feels like a big stretch based on what he's currently producing. And just to get the date on this article, I think it was back in March, 1st of May. Okay, it was a month ago. That's terrifying. Let me find this again. Yet, in spite of this, the type of clubs that appear to be pursuing him actually feel like they bear the most potential for success than any stepping stone side lower down the league. What he has the potential to offer feels like the casings of a modern possession-based wingback, where the right coaching and system mechanics could see his defensive work rate, attacking awareness, and forward execution fill out and thrive. And that is what Conte is fantastic at putting into wingbacks, and that is what he's brilliant at developing other players to do. So like I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, maybe it is a case of Conte bringing in a player who has the uncoachables to coach everything else, and bring in a player who has that pace, who has that that kind of physical knack of stepping one way and the other, and then coaching what needs to be coached. Look, I don't know. This hasn't really helped my feelings on this deal. I'm not going to lie. There are positives, but there are certainly a lot of negatives that need to be addressed. If you do want to read this report, I read it in full. It is down below. I also have a report from Who Scored and Breaking the Lines. So at the bottom of the description, the links are there if you want to check those out yourself. If you want to stay here, there's a few more bits to get through. And the first one is an update from Alistair Gold, who says that Tottenham Sporting Director Fabio Paratici is considering a move for Newcastle United winger Alan St-Maximin. I'm not too sold on that. I think I saw mentions of a £35 million release clause to teams in the Champions League. I don't know if 35 million is a good option for him, or a good price for him. Again, if Conte wants him, get it done. But I'm a bit skeptical about that one. But the fact of the matter is, we will be bringing in a winger this window, because this man has been very honest in an interview today. He has confirmed that he's looking to leave Tottenham this summer. He said, "I just have to go play, but I want to leave Spurs now, that's for sure." He said, "It's difficult for me. I play well at the national team, but when I return to the club, people turn a blind eye to me. I need to find a solution." The reporter then kind of pushed him and said, "The solution seems clear to you. You need to leave." And Bergwijn said yes. Which, look, it's not surprising. We'd had reports, and we'd had, I wouldn't even call them rumours, that very, very strong reports that Bergwijn wanted to leave, and he's confirmed it. It's disappointing. He's a good player. It just hasn't quite worked out for him at Tottenham, and he's still a good option for us. He's still a good rotation option. But as I said, I think it was on my last stream, that with the way we're trying to build things under Antonio Conte, I think we need someone who isn't just a good option for the last 20 minutes off the bench, but is a good enough option to compete for a starting place, to be enough of a threat to Kulusevski that he propels him on to be even better. I don't think Kulusevski needs that, but it can't be any harm having a bit of competition behind you. And it just doesn't seem like Bergwijn is an option to do that, unfortunately. A few other stories from lesser reliable reports. I saw someone mention Nico Gonzalez in the chat. Sportsmole are saying that Tottenham will be interested in reaching a deal for Barcelona midfielder Nico Gonzalez this summer. Chris with a very good comment. He says, "Don't forget to like and subscribe to this great channel." There's 800 people watching. How many likes are we on? We're on 178 likes, so let's get that up to 250. I believe in all of you that we can get that done. I would greatly appreciate that. But yeah, Nico Gonzalez, according to Sportsmole, I don't know much about the source, but for me that would lead me to believe that it's not exactly reliable. The Mirror said that Tottenham are still in the fight to sign Christian Eriksen. There's been a few reports on that today. Corriere dello Sport has said that Tottenham, quote, have the money to sign Chelsea's Romelu Lukaku, with Antonio Conte standing between Lukaku and Inter at the moment, so trying to prevent that transfer to bring him to White Hart Lane. The Belgian has been Conte's #1 target, as he considers him a pivotal player. It's not going to happen, let's be honest. There have been a few updates as well on Alessandro Bastoni, but they're from the likes of Corriere dello Sport, Tutto Sport, Gazzetta dello Sport, Calcio Mercato. Not the most reliable report, so I don't want to bring that to you about Bastoni without having other reliable stuff to talk about. So for once, we have a stream where we're not going to be talking about Bastoni. Alessandro, if you're watching, please come to Tottenham. I love you. Well, look, we will wrap it up there. Going for just under half an hour. It was nice to focus on Djed Spence, to be honest, because we've spoken a lot about a potential transfer without really knowing too much about him. So hopefully this has been an educational stream with regards to what that player can offer us. Like I said, the link to that is down in the description below. Daniel, thank you for subscribing. The link to those articles are down in the description below if you want to check them out. As Tony says, come on guys, and you can grab yourself a membership while you like and subscribe. So if you do want to become a channel member, the join button is just down below. There's a few different options there, but they all have different perks. Our channel members, existing members at the moment, for example, got a 12-hour early access to our video with Sky Sports reporter Michael Bridge the other week. So hopefully we'll have more videos like that throughout the summer, and you'll be getting early access to those. So please do hit that join button down below if you are interested. But mainly, if you can, please do hit that like button. I think every streamer probably says this, but it is very beneficial to us when you hit that button, because it lets the little YouTube algorithm know that you're enjoying this content, and it pushes it out to more and more people, and we get to build a community of more and more Tottenham fans. We started off this window, I think shy of 13,000 subscribers. Not even the window, it's not open yet. But we're pushing on. I actually think we've gained 50 or 60 in the stream, to be honest, because we're up at 14.3k. I'm trying to think what that was. Anyway, to everyone who has subscribed, I really do appreciate it. If you haven't yet, to the 750 that are watching, please hit that button down below. But from me, for now, as always, thank you so much for watching.